All right, let's go on to number 37, defensiveness.
Also, choice support bias and Myside bias. A fallacy of ethos, one's own, in which after one has taken a given decision, commitment, or course of action, one automatically tends to defend that decision and to irrationally dismiss opposing options, even when one's decision later on proves to be shaky or wrong. Example, yeah, I voted for Smith. Sure, he turned out to be a crook and a liar and got us into war, but I still say that at that time he was better than the available alternative. See also argument from inertia and confirmation bias. Yeah.
I used to do this
Yep.
back in okay, so when it comes to well, you're okay and not okay with discussing politically, we can like discuss like what is which fallacies are present, but not like saying which one is right or wrong, right?
Yeah, if it starts to be an argument of like like this thing's right, that thing's wrong, to me we start to get into a space where it becomes unproductive both for I think the audience, but also unproductive for us because we end up getting more focused on like trying to debate on what's right and wrong versus the fallacies and how it's applied in our lives.
Okay. Okay. Very well. So with that being said, um, I will say that this is just a personal story of mine. So
Mhm.
whether you think it's right or wrong, go with it. Okay. So in 2016, when it came to the election of Trump versus Hillary, I hated both of them and continue to hate both of them very much, almost equally so. At that time, I'm like, dude, you know what? And what's funny about these fallacies is a lot of them like stack on top of each other. I was also feeling like nihilistic at the time because I'm like, well, if it's Trump, it's all just gonna fall apart. So, like, and then we'll just rebuild. Um, which no, that was that was a bad choice. But also, anyways, so my choice was protest vote, and I voted for Bernie Sanders at the time, and I thought that was the best option, just to protest vote. And to know that Hillary lost by such a small margin, and she won the popular vote, um I'm convinced that um I really didn't want Hillary to be the first woman president, but that was still, in my opinion, a better alternative than what ended up happening. And but for years up until this election, so 8 years, I was defending no, like Bernie, like voting third party was the best choice that I could have done. And I'm like, no, that was fucking stupid. Because now we got Trump again. Again, my opinion, take it with a grain of salt. Alan made agree, disagree, and it's up to you to decide.
Well, I got that. Thank you for that share. Yeah, I think for me, like I definitely fall into this a lot. I'm trying to think of like a specific example. I love that you brought in a specific example. I want to see if we can do that more as we go through this. Hmm. Defensiveness. 'Cause I know I've done this. Like you just get um so attached to a position. Yeah. So I could do this. Is a really this is a good one. Um. Oh man. Yeah. So or like a deep personal story, but for myself, I remember when um this was happening probably now, I want to say like 9 months ago, 9 months ago to a year in that space. Um, my fiance and I, we were building up a relationship. We weren't engaged yet, but had every intention to be engaged to her. I was like, this is definitely the woman. And I, at the time, did not, I was unwilling to acknowledge that I was not getting some of my emotional needs met. because, and it was a whole complex with myself, like not being able to share my needs, not being able to declare them, not being able to even entertain the idea that I could have needs. It was a whole thing. And so to get my needs met, what I was doing was I was going on lunch dates with other women. And I wouldn't have called it that. I never called it that. I was like, "Oh, I'm just grabbing lunch with this person. We're just having a chat." And to me, I was so decided on these aren't dates. They're just get-togethers. Ding. They're not dates, they're just get-togethers. And I really
Sorry,
believe that.
hold up. We have to explain. If anyone's just like listening, we have to explain what we're laughing about because otherwise it
Oh,
sounds weird out of context. Apparently, if you give a thumbs up on Zoom, if you guys are watching, then it
there's so many. You can do two thumbs up is the fireworks. You can do two thumbs
Oh, do
down.
you set that yourself?
It was a part of an update at some point, which I love them. I love the raining cloud one. I also
Mine
love
doesn't seem to work.
I love this is my favorite one. This is the lasers. I'm all about it. So yeah, big
Okay.
these. I use
Sorry
them
for
all.
the distraction there.
All good. Here we go. So yeah, so I wouldn't call it that. I just wouldn't because I was so ashamed of my actions on a subconscious level that I refused to call it that. And so when my partner was like, "Hey, like, do you like these women? Like, what's going on here?" I was like, "Nothing's going on. Everything's fine." And then I was maintaining that, like really hardcore maintaining that. And it wasn't until I would say probably 6 months of doing that, where eventually, Amanda and I went to, is my fiance, her name is Amanda. We went to Tulum together. And somehow through the work that I've been doing, through the emotional stuff and her questions and whatever, um, I was like finally after like 4 or 5 months of going on these other dates with other women, was finally able to like concede and say, no, I think I've been going, not I think I was like, no, I've been going on dates with other women because I wasn't getting my needs met. And I was trying to get my needs met outside of the relationship rather than having the courage to actually build things the right way in this relationship. But I defended the opposite story of that's not happening, that's not happening, that's not happening for months before like the truth finally came to the surface through the work that I was doing with myself, the work that she was doing with herself, us growing the relationship over time. So that to me it was one of the most painful experiences that we had in our relationship. Um, but to me, what I found fascinating about that whole process was despite my actions, what I found fascinating was how convinced I was in my own head that I wasn't doing what I was doing. Like that to me was fascinating. Like looking back, I was like I was so defensive that I was causing the defense to be strong within my own mind. And looking back, I go, well, yeah, it was because I was deeply ashamed of what I was doing, so much so that I repressed the actuality down to like the depths of my subconscious. But to me, I thought that was like, yeah, I found that fascinating. That defensiveness can like literally be so intense for people that they can suppress information out of their conscious mind because they don't want to look at it because they prefer the story they chose. So, personal story, I find this one fascinating.
Awesome. I really appreciate you being vulnerable with that story because hopefully for a lot of people that are listening that have gone through something similar, I encourage you to reflect on yourself and try to see how many of these or of defensiveness in this case you have done. Um,
And I want to end it with this because like
mhm.
the story, there's always got to be the happy ending, right? Or what happened, right? So what did happen is once I was clear and was able to release my attachment to the defensiveness of my stance, but instead be able to just say plainly what was going on, to which Amanda and I were able to deal with it. The next 4 to 6 months after Tulum after the information came out. It was a really, really hard road of both of us sharing things we had not been sharing because we wanted to defend our positions over our entire relationship. And it started quite literally this like cleaning house type thing where everything was being dealt with one thing at a time. Through all of that, after allowing ourselves to be honest and not attached to the stories we had created, we've created now a relationship that is beyond words. We consistently get feedback as an example where people will come up to us and say, "Man, I really wish what you guys have." And we always really appreciate it. And there's a part of me that goes, "Well, I don't I don't know if you would be saying that if you knew what we had to how much we paid for this to exist." But what I want to say is like for anybody who, if you found yourself in a similar situation, if you're defending something and you evaluate that you've been defending a particular position for yourself to such a degree that you've been living almost in a sense like a double life because you've been so attached to a certain story you created, I really urge you to not urge you, I encourage you to clean that up. I encourage you to one step at a time, have those difficult conversations and do the work because it can yield such a level of safety and communication and love between you and everybody around you, and let alone just like peace within yourself. So it was a really hard process, probably one of the hardest processes I've ever been through because it required a huge amount of responsibility and ownership of myself, my own personality, and my needs and wants and desires. But I would 100% go through it again if I could get to the same result that I'm in today.
Very good. At the end of this, I see that says, see also argument from inertia and confirmation bias, which is interesting because I'm like, this sounds a lot like confirmation bias, and it is. It is confirmation bias. It's a combination of both argument from inertia and confirmation bias. So that's interesting. Part of me wants to say, well, why doesn't this list do that with all the other fallacies that I mentioned that aren't on this list? And maybe because then the list would be like 1,000 fallacies, and there's already enough for us to get through. So maybe they, chose that there is truly like an infinite number of fallacies you can make up. Fallacies we did in this program so far already, just as jokes. But yeah, I would say these are the biggest ones. So, anyways, this is up to the discretion of the University of Texas to whatever is on this list, the master list. All right.